All right, sir. Glenn, we're starting with this. So if you're not watching the stream at sportscage.com, might want to hustle. Go on sportscage.com. Go to the YouTube channel. Because we've been talking about it now for months. The bear that visits Glen Suitor's house. And he's got a video, and there he is on Glen's lawn doing his thing from his camera at his front door. I got to tell you, Glenn, this is fantastic. This is fantastic video.
Barney, I did a little research on our friend Bear. Okay, so I asked around the neighborhood because, as you know, this is not the first time. And by the way, yeah, he left his business right there.
He sure did.
And I didn't even miss a field goal. Anyway, I digress. But I found out that this bear's name is Bob. And Bob the bear has been in the area for, basically since they came out of hibernation. And he now has people going up and taking pictures with him. I would strongly suggest against that. But, I don't know how close these people are getting. So it's embarrassing me into walking out my front door and look at my grass. What a mess. I've got those little Schaefer beetles or whatever they are. But, this is exactly where. That's my front door right there. And that's exactly where he left his business right there. He's just getting in position if you're watching the stream right now. And from the camera above, Bob looks a little smaller than he really is. I mean, he's a hefty bear, and I guess we've just made him our pet in the neighborhood now. And I'll remind folks, like when I called the the game wardens or whatever they're called, and I called the people in charge of this stuff, and they said, "Where do you live?" And I said, I gave them my address, and I'm about a block away from sort of entering a mountain range of bike trails and camping. Like you could get lost in there and never be found. And when they found out my address, they said, "Well, you're living where the bear lives, so you have to expect that you're going to have company." So there's Bob. Bob is right out front.
Go, Colson. Go to the video one more time. Sorry. I think Glenn, he's bigger than what I thought.
Oh.
No, he is. I'm being on. Yeah. And I could use the cheesy joke that the camera adds 10 pounds. Just look at us here on YouTube. But he's bigger. No, he is bigger than. Look. That's the picture when he walks by the vehicle, Colson. I get a sense of how big and he's meaty.
Yeah. No, that's a big bear. You put.
What if you walk out? You walk out to take the garbage. Your head's got to be on a swivel.
Well, I have to check the cameras now before we go out, and that includes at night and things like that. I sort of assuming that if I take my dog out the side gate, which is behind the bear in that shot, if I take him out there, he will smell the bear before and go nuts. So it'll give me a heads up that something's on the other side of that door. But yeah, he is. Bob's been around, and that was just a couple of days ago from those shots right there. But I was going to say, if you took two CFL footballs and kind of held them together, and then maybe a half of another one, that's the width of the top of his head.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
Okay, you got to keep us updated on the bear now. Now he's part of the program. He's part of the program. Colson's going to make a graphic. Maybe we'll get T-shirts made someday. Bob the bear. If you know, you know. Awesome stuff. Okay, we'll get to the Riders in a bit here.
Yeah,
I want to start with the interception that Robert Carter Jr. in BC. Hard pressed to find a more impressive interception from my point of view.
Yeah, no, I can't remember one, honestly. And I can't remember one in either league. And I don't, I don't think we should make comparisons. I don't think it's necessary and all those things, but a different discussion. But I think this athleticism and his ability, first of all, to get as high as he did. I mean, Brendan O'Leary-Orange is a big receiver. I think he's 6'4", and that ball was dropping right in there. And he when he leaves his feet, I mean, you look under from his feet to the turf. That is a vertical that's breaking records at the combine. I mean, he is up there. And then to stretch out, and I'm going to ask Robert next time I see him if he's right or left-handed, because he used his left hand.
Good point.
To catch that. So if he is right-handed and did all that with his offhand, and then to be able to have the body control to not let it hit the ground and lose it at that point.
Can you go to that one, Colson, again, or is it just all in one loop? That angle of the pick. Look at how high he jumps. He's at the receiver. He's at the receiver's almost belt. How high he gets up here.
Yeah. Like and again, that's a 6'4" receiver, and those hip to feet for Brendan O'Leary-Orange. That's a long way. That's hitting your head on the basketball rim, basically, is what it would be.
Let's stay with that game in a bit, because we talked about him in hour one, and Kenny Lawler has done some pretty cool things this year in his own right, catching the ball. But it was interesting, and I'm watching the game Sunday, and you talk about how they're taking him away, they're double teaming him, they're playing a little high low here, they're taking him away. Bo Levi Mitchell on point. He just went to everybody else in the yard then. Yeah.
And Keandre Smith was his favorite target. I think he had 14 catches. 14 catches, because he was the underneath guy. He was the check down guy, the guy on the flat. And Coach Benavides, and he had given me a little bit of a heads up. Sometimes I get information that I can't use at all before games start because it's strategic. And he gave me a heads up that they had to do something with Lawler. Like their priority was going to be to not allow him an explosive play. And because they just felt like that team rallied around every one of his explosive plays. So that was their strategy. And you're right, Bo Levi Mitchell, the veteran, if you do it against a young guy at quarterback, he might get impatient, and that's when he forces it into the double team, or he forces it into that high umbrella-like coverage, and picks happen. And he didn't. Bo is a vet. Bo is on top of his game. He's a front runner for MOP, I think, with Trevor Harris. I think those two guys are 1 and 1A at this point of the season. And when you play against a guy that's going to be able to be patient from start to finish, I mean, and consider this, in that final drive, they were in first and 15 twice. Yeah. They got 2 penalties on the final drive that put them in first and 15, and they executed to convert both of those to first downs to keep it alive and get down and score the winner. So great football game, outstanding catch. They
get to the goal line, right? And I think there was the penalty. Everybody probably a run coming up here.
Yeah.
And they leave, I forget the receivers wide open on the seam. And he just has his hands up, and Bo finds them. Mike Guido would have caught that. It was I thought, I'm like, wow, they did not run, and that is why Bo Levi Mitchell, that's why they're on a 5-game heater, and he is seeing the field. He's playing probably the best ball, even to his own admission, maybe of his career.
Yeah, I agree, and he was quick to thank or to name Scott Milenovich as the big reason for it. I mean, Scott from in both leagues, again, whether he was down in the NFL or up here, has been an outstanding, innovative offensive mind. And Bo, let's be honest, last year got a little stubborn because he had learned a different way and actually was benched. This veteran who's playing at the level he's playing right now was benched last year. Yeah. And isn't that a great message for young kids that, you might be the man and things change a little bit, a coach changes, and you have to learn a new system, and it's not working out, and you get benched because of it. Don't lose your mind. Stay focused, make the adjustments, and get back in there, because Bo is a good example of what you can do.
It's Glen Suitor and press coverage for Bronco Plumbing and Heating. We're also playing SaskTel Pick the Score at 936-6262. Get those in right now. What do you think the score is? Riders and Alouettes coming up on Saturday. And then Kevin chimes in on the text line. No score, and he doesn't want to go see baseball. If you want to go see baseball, let us know too. Kevin just says new sports cage mascot, Bob the Bear. So
yeah, I love it. I love it.
Kevin's onto something. Riders Elks on Friday. You know, when you watch that one and how it went down, you know, from Cody to the Riders maybe again letting them back in the game, being outscored 14-0 in the fourth. How do you see that one, Glenn?
Yeah, it was interesting that the narrative right after the game was, and listen, I thought Cody played pretty well, but the narrative after the game was, you know, the Edmonton offensive line has been the problem. And I immediately thought, well, let's give credit to the Riders front four on defense, first of all. They had a monster game. I think it might have been the best game of the year for Micah Johnson, and maybe the best over the last year and a half. And he was nicked up last year, so you know there was that, and for Shane Ray. And we're seeing right now on the feed that Shane Ray play. I thought it was maybe his best game. I mean, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Barney, that we were talking about this, and I mentioned that I with Shane Ray's resume, I think we should see more production, and now we are. It's coming now, and I thought he had maybe his best game. So let's give credit there first of all. Secondly, Trey Ford played with the same O-line, so Trey Ford never got sacked 8 times. So I don't, you know, it's funny how the narratives shift quickly depending on kind of who you'd like to see in certain positions and who you might not want to see at certain positions. Listen, I thought Cody played okay, but he got sacked 8 times. And Trey had the same offensive line for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and he never got sacked 8 times. So, you know, he brings a different element that maybe that team needed and maybe needs going forward. And I'm not cheering for Trey Ford. Well, that's not true. I do cheer for good people, and I cheer for Canadians to do well. That's for sure. But listen, I like Cody, and I think they can win with him. I don't think they're going to make a change. No, I think that was my next question. Where do you think they go? So you just think they're going to stick with Cody for a bit here? Well, I think at least one more game. And, you know, and maybe they've had the conversation that we talked about last week, Barney, where the coach walks in and says, guys, we might need both of you, and we might need both of you in every game. I mean, I think back to the Burgess Austin years that I was part of and think that was a rotation almost. I mean, it wasn't a preset deal, but John Gregory would just look at see who had the hot hand and what kind of defense we were playing against. And if it was a different sort of more man-style defense, we saw Burgess. If it was more of a zone look and that kind of look on defense, we saw Kent most of the time. So, you know, it can work.
Gregory making the call in that sweet, sweet sweater that he always wore. You see the Grey Cup videos. I love that thing. They need to bring that back. The one thing that I noticed in the game, and maybe it's just me going a little too deep on it. I want to get to Brett Lawther in a bit, but the punting game and how important field position and where to place punts. And I felt that if it's possible, Cody Grace, punter for the Edmonton Elks, who I've never said his name before and I probably never will again. I thought that guy kicked the snot out of the ball, put it exactly where it needed to be, or else his team would have been in a worse situation with Trevor Harris in that offense.
Yeah, you're right. And, you know, the key part of that discussion and with punters is the directional kicking. It really is, especially with the returners that we have in the league. I mean, even with some of the top guys out due to injury, our returners can can turn the field in a split second because it's so big and so tough to cover in all of those lanes. So, if you as a punter don't get the ball between the numbers and the sideline, then you are in trouble because your cover team has to cover the entire 65-yard wide field. And if you can get them into the corner, and they changed the rule now, so you have to get them in with better accuracy, because a couple of years ago, it didn't matter if it went out on the 30-yard line, if it went out of bounds there.
Yeah,
now it's a penalty.
Yeah.
So it's instant field position. So now you have to get it deep in there and then out of bounds or into that section. So yeah, directional kicking, hugely important in our league because of the returners.
Unfortunately, it looks like we've got some injuries again, especially Samuel Emelis, receiver. It's going to be another next man up. We got Tommy Neal in the fold, right? Mims, local boy. Maybe he gets a little bit of a taste now. But the injury bug, call it what you want, as we go into August, it's something that every team is dealing with. It's just under the microscope here a bit in Riderville, with now another receiver down.
Yeah, I think there's sort of two aspects to the injury thing. One is the injuries that happen in game and that you have to manage as a coach with the game going on, because the rosters are restricted. In fact, when I had my commissioner meeting with Stuart Johnston, I that was one thing I brought up. He was asking everyone. I don't know if you've met with him yet, Barney. I know you wanted to do that. So, and he will. I'm sure he will if you haven't already. But he asked me right out, what would you change immediately, or what would you add? And I said I would make the rosters bigger. I think we need to do it for two reasons. One, in-game injuries or nicks that where a guy even loses 2 or 3 series before he can return. If we have deeper rosters and we have more prepared players ready to come in and take those spots, but also it would allow for independent cover teams, independent special teams. So basically you have your 12 on offense, your 12 on defense. Those guys don't play special teams because most of the defenders, linebackers, DBs are covering punts. A lot of them are on kick return. A lot of receivers are on kick return. When you're, and we've talked about how important the special teams are. So when you are starting on offense, or let's put it on the defensive side. If you're a DB and you're covering a punt, you have 20 seconds after running 45 yards down the field in basically a barroom brawl with another player, trying to make a tackle on one of these returners. And then 20 seconds later, you have to start in the secondary on defense. You have to cover somebody immediately. So your recovery time, and as the game goes on, I don't know that there's a lot more injuries. There's probably data on this, but I don't know if there's a lot more injury on the teams. But if you could have independent special teams and more depth on the roster, I know it costs more money, but more depth on the roster, I think we would make the game a little safer and easier for coaches to manage those in-game injuries.
We're gonna tee up Riders and Montreal on Thursday, but I want to leave with Brett Lawther. Misses another one, goes 2 for 3. At what point do you think the Riders will explore again? Who, for starters, experience in the league? It's not as easy as just bringing in a kicker. Do you think we're getting close to somebody else coming in to maybe boot? Because Glenn, I said I like Brett as a guy and all that. I don't know where his mental space is, but if it was late October right now, and we got a 42-yarder to bang through to advance or do whatever, I don't know how confident I am.
I hear you, and again, this is the part where I think coaches sometimes maybe overthink this. Really, I think it's really quite simple. You take your pajamas with the shoes attached and you cut the shoes off and you go out there and tell your kicker, we're bringing in another guy and it's going to be competition. And you have a chance now to fight off that competition and be great. And I watch Brett and I'm with you. I'm cheering for him to come back. He's a great human being. He's a good teammate. He's a great kicker. And he's going through something that is just, either, early on we could have said he was breaking in a new holder and all of those things. And that does matter. But at this point, if they haven't made a change, then that's not the issue. And so bring in competition. That will be your best chance to push Brett, put the pressure on him all week rather than just on game day. And then he'll either handle it or he won't. But if he doesn't, we're not even at Labor Day yet, and you have a chance to break someone new in. If he does, which I expect he would and will, if that happens, then Brett is a stronger person on the other end of it and ready to compete when the game starts.
I'm hoping for that as well. All right, Thursday we'll regroup. We'll tee up the game in Montreal.
Look at that.
If you're watching the stream, Colson, I knew he was doing something quietly and quick over there. And there it is.
That's awesome. I love it. Bob the Bear is becoming famous.
Sports Cage mascot. Thank you so much. All right, we'll talk to you Thursday, Glenn.
Okay, thanks, Marty.
See ya.